Board of Education. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McLean, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Here.
Mr. Hyde.
Here.
Mrs. Love.
Here.
Mrs. Kidd. Here. Mrs. Green. Here. Mr. Eaton.
Here. You're all here. We will proceed. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district business. It is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion is made and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3 is the first opportunity for citizens to address the board. Again, you are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under this item, item 3.1, you will request to address the board on any topic that's on tonight's agenda, which is displayed behind me. And then under item 9, you're welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address. Direct your comments here to the board president. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes, and per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment, although we may refer the matter to our administration for follow-up. Mrs. Mahoney, can you check in, please, and see if anybody has signed up? Great, thank you very much. And again, under item 9, anyone is welcome to address the board on any topic. Item 4 is our superintendent update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you, President Need. Good evening, community. First point of order, the district's going to be hosting a community collaboration event here in the boardroom next Tuesday, April 22nd. This will bring together dozens of community organizations and services to talk and learn about each other and to see where resources can be shared and services further can be enhanced. So we're looking forward to that. Nice way to kind of cross and make sure our community and looking at opportunities to support one another. Additionally, CHS Drama Club will present their spring presentation of Clue from the classic board game. Next weekend, our senior gold card members, those listening this evening, you're invited to a sneak preview next Wednesday, April 23rd, right after school. Clarkston Area Youth Assistance Recognition Night is Thursday, April 24th at Clarkston High School. For those of you who have not attended, this is a great opportunity to recognize students that aren't always recognized. It has a very positive message that night and is a great connector between youth assistance, which runs between the Clarkston courts and the county and the school district, and it really is a nice event, really supporting and focusing on kids, all kids. Finally, our senior student events begin at the end of this month. We're already there with Senior Awards Night on Wednesday, April 30th at CHS. And with the weather breaking today, for at least the next 20, maybe less, 12 hours, we're going to have spring. Apparently, we're going to revert back to a mix of winter, spring tomorrow, and then hopefully we're going to be on our way into the next couple weeks in the warmer weather. So I know I speak for all of our kids and our teachers and our staff as a whole that we're excited with the transition coming in spring and new beginnings and fresh starts, and we're looking for a very strong finish to this wonderful school year. Thank you, Mr. Need.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Any questions for Dr. Ryan? Okay, we'll move on. There are no presentation items tonight, so we'll move directly into our action items. Item 6.1 is approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Motion is made and supported. Any questions for Mr. Lucido or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.2 is approval of the Lightspeed Digital Insight Program. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase agreement for Lightspeed Digital Insight for a 3-year term and a total cost of of $78,750 as presented.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion is made and supported. Dr. Ryan, could you just give a little background on this?
Absolutely. And this evening, I have a special guest who has a special jacket he brought for this evening, Mr. Kevin Emmons, who is intimately attached. He's not only prepared to give you a quick summary, but also answer any questions that we have this evening together.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you, President Need, members of the board. Something that has come up this year in order to ensure that we are meeting all of our requirements for 3 federal laws related to privacy of data and student data. Those are FERPA, COPA, and SIPA. We have to now analyze any types of online third-party tools that want to have access to students' information, whether it be their name, their email address, or connect to their drive to share resources that students are creating in their classrooms. As we've started to work with subject area coordinators, we realized that task is much bigger than we originally anticipated. And so Ms. Banaszak and I have looked out a couple of different tools to help us manage this system. We were able to do a demo run of the Insight tool from Lightspeed that basically installs a monitor on our devices to see what is sharing data in and out related to, again, student use. We were quite surprised to see that after a month of analyzing it, there was over 1,000 different apps that is collecting and sending data. Some of them are ones we already know about and use, like Google Drive, Gmail, things of that nature, but other ones were ones we did not know that were collecting data, sending data, and then we have to systematically analyze each one to see, is it something that is district-approved curriculum? And if so, I want to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to ensure that that data is safe. And this platform will constantly monitor that information to let us know if there's any new things that, for example, if a teacher goes to a conference and workshop and learns about a great tool and wants to start using it with students, that we know that it's in use and that we can support them and make sure that they have everything that they need while also protecting student privacy and data. This tool will also let us know if the vendors of these have signed a national pledge to keep student privacy secure, and if they have not. That saves us some time in gathering that, because if they have not, then we have to individually with every vendor get a data privacy agreement signed with our district and to them. And then furthermore, this platform will also make it easy for us to share our list of district-approved technology vendors that have a data privacy agreement right to our district website for transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons.
Certainly. Any other questions about
Any
the platform?
questions for Mrs. Love?
It says here in the packet that this will ensure our investment for all district educational technology. How will it do that?
For example, we've already found that there's about a dozen or so teachers that are utilizing a platform that they're paying either out of their own pocket or out of department funds to use this. It's a great tool. By going to a district model, we can probably save the district money by buying a package for the entire district and provide that software to all teachers. Plus, we can identify tools that we have been paying for that teachers aren't using anymore. So we're hopeful that we can find those tools that while 5, 6, 7 years ago were great at the time, we're still paying, but no one finds it useful, and we can shut that down.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, President
Yes.
Need. Thank you, President Need. I'm just curious, this sounds to me like one of those subscription apps that tells you all the subscriptions that you have. And my curiosity lands in the fact that I wonder, I'd like a presentation in the future, let's put it this way, on the technology safeguards that we have in the district to ensure that we don't have a tremendous, or maybe so, that we do have a tremendous amount of overlap. I don't honestly know which way I want to say that, whether we should have no overlap or whether we should have reasonable overlap of certain proprietary systems to monitor emails, to monitor privacy, to monitor data, to monitor apps that we might be using in that sense. So I'm curious too, since this comes out of the general fund, is this something that was on the horizon, or is this something new that has come to you, and did we budget for it initially?
This is something that is new that has come to our attention, that is something we have to make sure we're protecting, especially our kids that are under 13, but definitely all of our students that are under 18. And it is something that we want to be able to pay for out of our department's funds, which would then come from the general fund. So we've earmarked out of our own budget from the technology portion of the general fund the cost for this annually, because we feel like the amount of time invested to gather this information, I've spent probably 3 or 4 months starting to gather the information, and I only was able to identify about 200 apps in working with curriculum teams and working with vendors, whereas in 30 days it already found over 1,000. So we feel like the amount of resources it's going to provide for the cost is well worth the investment.
Thank you very much.
Certainly. Other questions?
Any questions or comments? Mr. Clark?
In regards to the student safety, I don't know if we've gone over this yet, but in regards to the student safety, are we monitoring for any potential threats or anything like that?
Constantly. We have several different platforms that monitor that. Most notably the one that you might be thinking of as Gaggle, which is constantly monitoring what students write, whether it's in an email or a search or a document, to see if there's anything that might be a threat to self or a threat to others, or of a concerning nature and topic, which then immediately gets analyzed by a trained individual and then gets escalated if necessary up to our administrators. So that's the biggest one, but we also have a few other platforms that are constantly trying to block inappropriate things from getting to students, or then identify if something is questionable that we have a team that analyzes.
Mr. Clark, we even have it to the level right now with the call center, that Gaggle that monitors it. If they believe it's like an imminent threat, we even created a pathway directly to Oakland County Sheriff's, which sounds easy, but when you're in a different part, you're in Connecticut and you're trying to dial 911 in Oakland County, it was quite a bit more challenging than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But they get that, and then ones that are either borderline, I and some other administrators, we literally evaluate. I made a call last night to a family that I saw something that I was concerned about. So that it's literally like a team effort in 24 hours a day. But
Yeah, there's quite a few people
bringing
involved.
Mr. Emmons in a capacity to kind of overlook and oversee a lot of these elements, I think is absolutely critical to our mission, and I appreciate what you've been able to bring to the table.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Thank you very much, Mr. Emmons.
Certainly.
Appreciate it. Seeing nothing further, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.3 is the approval of Chromebooks and Chromebook cart purchases for our shared service partner. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of 120 Chromebooks, Google licenses, and 4 Chromebook carts in the amount of $33,642 as part of our shared services agreement as presented.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.4 is the approval of furniture and glass board purchases for another shared service partner school. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of furniture and glass boards in the amount of $59,437.90 as part of our shared service agreement as presented.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6.5 is the second reading of various policies. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the changes to policy 312008, employment of personnel for co-curricular, extracurricular activities.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Mrs. McGinnis, do you want to make any comments on this, please?
Yeah, this policy and the next policy both have to do with the forthcoming requirement of individuals who serve as high school athletic coaches to be certified in CPR, and the use of AEDs beginning with the 2025-26 school year. This has been brought forth for a first reading and have received no feedback. I will say that while I don't know the date, Clarkston has long had AED units at our Clarkston High School. I specifically remember back when my kids were in school, the use of it one day. I actually think we were frankly, leading the trend on this many, many years ago. I believe we got them from the Rochester Foundation based on a family who had had an unfortunate situation, and the family provided AEDs to school districts. So,
Interesting. Thank you. Any comments or questions on this policy? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving policy 3120.08, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Policy 5340, student accidents. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the policy changes to 5340 as presented.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Mrs. McGinnis, can you give a quick summary of this, please?
And this one also is regarding student accidents. It basically falls under the same category as ensuring that athletic staff have CPR and AED training.
Any questions or comments for policy committee? Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.6 is the resolution regarding the 2022 bond series 2. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the attached resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of CCS 2022 School Building and Site Bond Series 2 as presented.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. This will be the final series of bonds under the 2022 bond. Mrs. Rogers is here if there are any questions. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Mrs. Love.
I was just hoping, just for the public, I did ask this question earlier in the day, but just kind of for the public in layman's terms, what exactly we're doing with these bonds, and if you think this is a good time to, with the market volatility, if this is the best time to do it, or if it would serve us better to wait a month or two, just kind of discuss that.
Well, the sale won't be until July 15th. That's the plan right now, to sell them on July 15th. Right now, we're just working on what the experts tell us, and that's where they designed it right now. That's our bond underwriter chose July 15th as our date, and then our RJ from PFM is the one that ran the schedules, and that's what they decided on.
Okay, and can you just run through the process of what exactly we're doing with the bonds? Like,
Well, it's the part of the 2022 bond. We've already done one series. Now we're doing the second series, which is the remaining of the funds. It's up to, what, $125 million is about what we'll get from this sale. And it's basically for the junior high, to finish the designing of the junior high.
And I can add a little bit even insight onto that from our conversation earlier, just for our community public, is that when you get a bond initiative approved by your community for specific items, in this case, building a junior high, air conditioning, all the things that we wanted to do with it, there's requirements within the bonds in terms of how you spend them and the number of years you have to be able to do the work relative to the useful life of whatever you're building, and that when you issue bonds, you do them in chunks to where you can actually complete the work that needs to be done, and then you can break them in what they call series. So you might have the first couple years worth of work, and that could be series 1, and you try to space out the total number, in this case of millions of dollars, to be able to cover the projects. And then as you start to near completion of those projects, or you start to plan ahead, because we sell the bonds in July, we're actually going to be looking at the revenue kind of later in the year. So it's really anticipation of projects that they're going to be looking at, probably pulling into the summer and fall, that we're going to be working on. Getting nods from AUK, which is always good. And then you really want to space it out to determine, we didn't know based on how the progress was going to go if we needed to do 2 or 3 series worth of bonds to space the work. In this case, the confidence of Mr. Goodman and AUK and GMB is that we're likely to be able to condense all of it within 2 series. And then looking at overall on the bond market, as Ms. Rogers referred to, we look at the experts and overall trends, and what they look for is signs of imminent crisis type thing. And remember, crisis when it comes to bonds is not always a bad thing. The old adage is when things are really uncertain, people flee to bonds. Right now, Judging just by watching the news every day, I wouldn't call it the most stable time in American history. So financially, looking at, how markets and everything are doing. So I would anticipate that, up through July, that we're going to be able to probably be very successful in selling those bonds. Buyers are very specific in looking at like Moody's ratings and other things from school districts to try to make on who they want to add to their portfolio. Our community should also know that these bonds are tax exempt. They're kind of municipal, and when a large hedge fund that might have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bonds that they purchased, including equities maybe in the stock market too. I'm probably providing too much information, but from there, they look at having some regular bonds or bond funds, and they like to have a certain margin of those to be municipal because they could be critical in a time where they're worried about paying taxes on other investments they have. So on the whole, I feel pretty good about not only the fact that we're going to condense this, it means we're really getting after the work and be able to do things, and the market's being able to support that. We're not worried about being able to pay for the projects or falling behind in the overall contingencies, which we're not, and we're in really good shape. So hopefully, in addition to what Ms. Rogers said, that answers your question and gives
Yes,
good.
it does.
I think the only thing I would add is the term is 3 to 5 years that the series has to be spent. You have to have it spent within the 5 years. There's a 3-year term, and then there's a 5-year. And that's why we do a second series, because we couldn't get it all spent if we would have did it all, so we did it in 2 series. So.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Thank you, President Need. I'd like to know, and I apologize for not asking this question so that more information to be had available, but I'm fine with it being brought up later. One, I want to know if we're going to have a board meeting before this July 15th date where we get to hear from RJ his analysis of the projections that he initially gave us and the projections that he thinks he's going into the market with and what we look like we're going to be able to capture, and whether we're in a more positive light than his initial projections, which we always have taken a very conservative approach to it, or whether we're break even, or I'd like some feeling as to, and it's really not about what today or tomorrow's market is saying to us. I would ask this just as a normal kind of follow-up to say, with this series 2, what did we spend in the first series? What's our balance? What we're going to go for? What's the projection that we initially gave to the community, and where does this projection lie in regards to finishing the high school, not only on time, but on budget and all the other things that we might be able to get done.
We can certainly get RJ.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem at all. And this recommendation is coming from him, so he'll be able to kind of give you a full rundown on it. He loves to talk about bonds.
I mean, I can ask him if he can come to the next board meeting, if that would help.
Yeah, we'll work that
Or
out.
maybe that's too early, maybe the June board meeting, if you want it closer to the July 15th sale.
Probably closer to now than, that gives everybody the kind of peace of mind to know that as it goes into it.
I don't have any concern. I just want to lay the numbers out for the community, because when we came for this bond and the amount that it is, we had to ask people to trust us that we're taking a conservative eye to this, that we were doing our due diligence, and I just want to close that loop and make sure the community knows that our consistent projections from the professionals that we hired to do the work in support of our bonds over these years continues to show that we're doing the work of the community, and what we said we're going to do, we're getting it done.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. And just so everybody remembers this, we do have a bond committee with Mr. Meyer and Mrs. Egan. They meet on a regular basis, and they review the progress of construction and where we are in terms of budgets, bond issues, and all those items as well. And they can weigh in on anything they want to say. But we are monitoring that on a regular basis. That was one of our goals, and we have certainly done that going forward. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, for your dissertation on bonds 101.
Mrs. McGinnis, might it make sense to do it after the July sale so that instead of guessing at what the bonds are priced at, we could look at the sort of actual numbers at that point to say, hey, this is what we thought, and this is what it is? Because I think if we do it between now and then, it's truly an estimation. Once we price the bonds and sell them, it's actual, and that I think will inform the board more than another estimation.
Yep, that's fine too.
Okay. And that is, we have done that in the past. We've always brought in a team after it's all happened. Because usually at that point, then we're asking you to approve a purchase agreement. So, you want me to do that then? So that would be later
Yep.
in this.
How about this? I'll put it on the side for just temporary for conversation. I'll bring it back to our leadership group. We can take polling behind the scenes and where the board would like to go, and people have a chance to think about it, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Eady.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the resolution or comments?
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ryan.
No, I was just saying thank you, Ms. Rogerson.
Thank you, Mr. This requires a roll call vote. Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Hyde?
Yes.
Mrs. Egan? Yes. Mrs. Crane?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Eady?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. That leads into the next two items, which are bond-related. Item 6.7 is approval of the Clarkston Junior High School large venue audio-visual systems. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the contract for advanced lighting and sound in the amount of $179,000 and an additional 10% construction contingency in the amount of $17,900 for a total of $196,900.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any questions or comments on the motion?
This evening also we have Mr. Joe Brenton, who came all the way to be able to field any questions and concerns you might have. If you want to, you can come up to the podium if you'd like. And thanks for being here this evening.
I'm Joe Brenton, by the way, project manager for the Clarkston Bond project. So I've been working on the junior high and then all of the other HVAC projects. So just a background. So the large venue AV is the main gymnasium. We have the fitness room that's in phase 2, as well as the aux gym, and that involves the speakers, projectors, and all the control systems for those areas, and this is the procurement and install of that. So this first phase will be the main gym, and then next phase will be the aux gym and fitness room, getting these similar components. So we bought it in one batch, so everything will be the same when we introduce the staff to the materials.
Excellent. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Good, thank you.
Next item, with regard to the junior high, item 6.8 is approval of the bulletins 3 and 8. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the construction change orders for Johnson and Sons, bulletin number 3 in the amount of $156,392, and for Commercial Contracting Corporation, bulletin number 8 in the amount of $138,597.
Your support?
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Dr. Ryan, anything on this item?
Nope. If any questions, again, we still have Mr. Brenton available if any.
Any questions or comments?
Well, President
McGinnis.
Meeks, I'm just wondering, are these change orders due to the recent water that we had back there? No?
No.
Yeah, the water part, we're all set with. This is mainly for Johnson & Sons, is the site work contractor, but this was in regards to water main relocation. We added some sanitary lines that had to get approved by Eagle, which is the county's, I should say, they go through all the drawings after we submit to the state, and then Eagle goes through. And so this came back, they had us change some stuff, and that's where this came from.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.9 is the approval of purchase agreement for 4 new school buses. May I have a motion, please?
I motion that the Board of Education approve the bid to purchase 4 new school buses from Midwest Transit in the amount of $585,040 as presented.
Motion's made and supported. Dr. Ryan, can you build a little bit?
Yeah, sure. This evening I have Mr. Lucido in place of Mr. Goodman, who's prepped with him to give kind of an overall view.
Yep. Yep, this is to purchase 4 additional 77-passenger buses. We need these buses. There's a number of times where we're not able to transport due to for athletics or for field trips, and this will give us the amount of buses that we need so we won't have to borrow. Sometimes we borrow from Holly. They've been a good partner to us, but that's not always feasible. So we're very fortunate to have enough bus drivers to even cover all these runs.
Was there also an element related to kind of supporting that division between the middle school and between the buildings on it? Was that going to make it a little bit easier?
Yeah, there's some shuttles too, and that's really by providing these shuttles, it's preventing us from being able to do any field trips or the athletics. So there's been a lot of times where we anticipated having buses to do a field trip or athletics, and we've had to cancel at the last minute because if one thing happens to our buses, we have to prioritize the shuttles.
I also applaud in recent Mr. Lucido working with transportation for the internal efficiency that we can transport more students more economically, 4 different opportunities during the day for the school district. So I think this is all right in line with it. Thank you.
Mr. Lucido, are we just straight up paying for these?
We are, but we're going to do an installment payment, the same as we've had in the past, where we'll probably have a buyback.
Got it. Thank you.
Mrs. Long.
That's along the lines of my question, because don't we traditionally have like a 5-year lease for buses?
It's not technically a lease. We do installment payments, and then there's an agreement where they buy it back from us. So it is very similar to a lease, but it's not technically a lease. But it's the
But
same
we're not
concept.
doing it here, or we are? Are we doing the same thing with these?
The same. Go ahead, Mary Beth.
At this point, we're just asking you to approve the bus purchase, and then I will go out to the attorneys, Troon, and we'll go out probably this week or next week out for a bid on the interest rate. Then we'll choose a bank, and then historically, we always just bring it back to you at that point, and then you approve the resolution for the IPA, and that'll be in a few months after we get an interest rate and all that.
Okay.
But right now, we're just asking you so that we can buy the buses so we can start the process.
And we definitely need 4. We can't go 2 for now and 2 next year. It is a lot of money, like $500,000 from the general fund. And
Yeah, it is. No, we've spent a lot of time evaluating this. We feel like this is where we need to be efficient. There won't be buses just sitting there with the 4.
And we won't have to make any cuts in any other areas from the general fund to accommodate this.
No, we're looking at the budget right now. It's just the season that we're in right now for the totality, when we think we can definitely absorb this. There's definitely a gap right now in the services we're providing to our families with the transportation, and we feel this would fix that. But we are taking this into account as we're balancing, as we head into next year.
Mr. Clark.
With these new buses, these are going to also be used to pick up students for school, not just field trips or just as spares. Like, are we going to add more bus routes for students that aren't getting picked up?
Well, right now, we don't have any students that aren't getting picked up. We're constantly, your students are not being picked up?
My whole subdivision doesn't get picked up.
Okay, I'd have to dig into that. I don't know what sub you live in.
We live in, really close to, North Sash. So the North Sash Elementary, our subdivision doesn't get, the older kids in our subdivision get picked up, but a lot of the younger ones do not. That's where a lot of families are actually asking for, bus support in our subdivision.
Okay, we have.
Mr. Lucia, I can
Is it
jump in.
the
I got a little
distance?
background information
Okay.
on that. I have been contacted by a couple parents that wanted a review, and they're going through the process. Right now,
Okay.
the elementary students, as far as my understanding of it, were not being picked up. It was related to the distance between the school, because we have like a minimum distance you have to be.
1
or
mile.
Actually, more than the minimum distance
Yeah.
to then qualify that we can do bus runs to.
Mhm.
We can always change that. This will not affect that. The older kids,
No.
because they're going to the secondary buildings further away outside the neighborhood, are receiving the full transportation piece.
Mhm.
But he is correct. There are several parents that were looking for some reviews recently, so
Sure.
that makes sense.
Yep, no, that makes perfect
This will
sense.
not affect that directly.
That's why I heard it in this, that there was going to be a division of buses where they would, I guess, for the middle school.
Mhm.
We,
Seats for buying a bus.
No, we had to go to putting sixth grade through 12th grade when we had a shortage of drivers, and we've worked back from that. And now we're in a good spot where that isn't happening. I think we might have one run left that's still happening, but that would be it. But that makes perfect sense what Dr. Ryan said. There is a gap, and if elementary is not getting picked up and secondary is, that makes sense with our policy.
Any other comments or questions? One item that you mentioned earlier, and I think it should be commended, is to see that we do have a full complement of bus
Yes.
drivers, which is unusual for Oakland County School District. So that's a tribute to you
Yeah.
and your department and your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Need the need for buses, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.10 is the approval of whiteboard purchases for another shared service. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of 98 glass whiteboards in the amount of $35,277.05 as part of our shared services agreement as presented.
Support.
Motion is made and supported. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.11 is approval of a resolution regarding full and permanent funding of IDEA. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the resolution calling for full and permanent IDEA funding as presented.
Support.
Motion is made and supported. IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Dr. Ryan, can you give us just a quick summary of this item?
Absolutely. Over the history of special education mandates that have been coming forth from both the federal and state governments, school districts across the country and across the state of Michigan have been struggling to provide services that match the funding. We've never been in a position to get full funding for the requirements and the mandates that have been on school districts, but we've managed to find a balance right now. And right now, the IDEA funding that we receive from the federal government is in the neighborhood of $2 million a year to support our students with special needs. And we feel like it's critical. We would like to see it full funding, which would probably be $3 or $4 million, but the two is definitely helps us make ends meet with respect to these programs and services. As relates to right now, this concern that's brewing in terms of future funding and the stability of that funding coming from the federal government, this is nothing new. I'll say that, make sure that's clear. This is nothing new. We've always tried to make sure our pushes, Mr. Heyer and other board members who have gone to Washington, D.C. have always represented Clarkston and school districts to push for that federal funding to support these programs. But right now, I think there's a little bit influx as how these services and payments are made, moving from one governmental area to the other. And I think our big drive here, to put it in layman's straight up terms to our communities, we want to make sure that we want to continue to have those funds. We don't want them to get lost in the shuffle, and we want to make sure that we're heard that please, be special in terms of the consideration that is required to continue these funds heading to school districts across the country.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And we did make a minor modification to the resolution as well that Heidi communicated to, or Mrs. McLean communicated to us earlier today. So, any questions or comments on the resolution?
So
Mr. Heyer.
the two bills referenced are from last Congress. So is there updated bills that were introduced this Congress?
As far as I know, there have not been. I think this is a proactive move in front where the funding conversation left off on those bills as we anticipate further amendments or changes to the funding structure and the priority list as it's deemed by the federal government. And we would just want to make sure that the powers that be right now hear that this is important.
So I think we should potentially just add introduce and pass in that last line, with equivalent to that. You would indicate those are from the 118th Congress, just to keep our numbers, because those numbers could be something else this Congress.
Okay, that's fair.
Just a little cleanup.
Thank you, Mr. Heyer. That's a good comment.
Excellent catch.
So with that understanding for the modification of the resolution to reference the introduction of similar bills. Any other comments or questions? Mrs. Long.
I just have a comment about research has consistently showed that increased education funding positively affects academic performance. While I do agree with that for Clarkston, unfortunately, I think we are in the minority in our state because the more money, we are getting more money every year in our state, and academic performance does continue to decline. So I'm going to support this resolution because we're referring to Clarkston, but I just want to say that I think we're doing better than most districts in the state with that.
Thank you, Mrs. Long. Any other comments or questions?
Along those lines, it might make it even more powerful if we strike the word research and say Clarkston Community Schools history has consistently shown.
I would love that, but I didn't want to be too needy, so.
It's all right.
I like it.
I think both those comments are great additions to the resolution.
Okay, who made the motion to,
Stephanie did.
you, as a friendly amendment, do you agree with this modification to the resolution?
I do. Do I have to say all the words?
And the support?
Support.
Who supported it?
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Are you?
Yes, I'm fine.
With those amendments to the resolution, any other comments or questions? Okay, Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll on this?
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Mr. Heyer.
Yes.
Mr. Dean.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. That concludes our action items. We have one report item. Two of our board members attended the annual conference of the National School Board Association, and that would be Mrs. Crane and Mrs. McGinnis. I believe Mrs. McGinnis is going to give us a summary report of the conference.
Yeah, so earlier yesterday, I don't lose my days here, I provided President Need a thorough, detailed synopsis of the classes that I took and the general sessions that Mrs. Crane and myself both took. I have to say that I think this was probably the best national conference I've ever gone to. I thought we selected some really great classes, and we did not duplicate ourselves. We never, in any class, did we sit together. So we really broadened the opportunities of what we could hear out there. One of the things I really want to say about going to national, because it's somewhat new to us, is that, and we kind of said this to a MASB member who was at conference, is that while MASB conference is really great, we can learn from our own colleagues here in the state. When we go to national conference, we learn from 49 different states, or we have the opportunity. And I know that there are many states that currently are not part of an SBA, but the diverse amount of ideas that come at the national level are far more diverse than what we hear at state level. I tried to focus on and found it was quite interesting that there were a lot of student representatives in attendance at this conference. And they were almost in every single class I was in. They spoke passionately about their role as a board member and the work that they do in supporting their district and their board.
Bless you.
One class that I went to early on was called From the Classroom to the White House, Student-Driven Board Policy. I mean, this was right up that alley. And I'm telling you, this presentation knocked my socks off. This was a presentation from a school district in Denver, Colorado, where the students didn't feel that their concerns about climate and their environment, sustainability of their environment in the mountains as they are, were being heard. So they spoke loud and clear. And there, I provided in this document, which I think that can be provided during the weekly review, links to their website that is just tremendous amount of work. They ended up hiring a sustainability director who is one of the top 50 women leaders in Denver. The students themselves went to the White House and met Vice President Harris came to the school district and met these students based on the work that they did. And also the sustainability director then got asked to come to the White House because of the work that they did. So that to me was just mind-blowing. We attended general session with Melissa Stockwell, who was the first a person serving in the Army that was a soldier to lose her limb, and how she became a world-renowned athlete, and how she persevered through those limitations that some may have thought she had. Pendergrass 8th grade superintendent student council was another. Achieving greatness together through student leadership. Again, another class on student leadership. In Arizona, their statewide school of choice. You can get transportation to the school you want to go to, you can go. No restrictions. And so there is a very large push in school districts to make themselves unique so that they can not only retain their students, but they can have more students come to their district. Well, Pendergrass, which is in the Phoenix area, has a pre-K to 8th grade conglomerate of schools, which about 8,300 students, pre-K through 8, and they nominate 5 students from each of their 12 buildings to be interviewed, be just a rigorous review schedule, to then only 2 of them get selected to be on the superintendent's student council. And these students travel all over the United States. And I'm waiting for them to send me, so they videotaped the entire presentation. I had a panel of 4 students, 4 8th grade students, the superintendent, and they put it on like a game show, kind of. So they interviewed the superintendent, but then the students would say, well, the superintendent Cruz, may I talk about? And they would interject and they would say, oh, you missed this. And it was just so well done. These students were so well rehearsed. This group ended up being in another class later on in the week where they are using vacant rooms in their school district for small startup companies through the collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. And so they're interjecting the students' work and the students' ability to provide support to these small startups in collaboration. And it was just really, they're breaking even. They're not making money out of it, but what they have is a collaboration between students and entrepreneurship and small business entrepreneurs and the Chamber of Commerce. It was really pretty cool. So each of these classes that I went to, I provided you the presentation documents that were part of the, and some YouTube videos of them. And let's see what else I want to say here. Again, another one, Life-Ready Students Building Durable Skills for an AI-Driven Future was another very, very well put together class regarding soft skills and employable skills and how they're working with students to achieve these through Project SET. And as soon as I get the video from Pendergrass and share it with you, I'm sure you're all going to just be blown away by what these students did. I'll leave something for Stephanie. I got to say the final thing. The Bacon Brothers, okay? The Bacon Brothers. Like, there were a lot of people there, of course, not my age, who didn't know who the Bacon Brothers were, didn't know what Footloose was, didn't know Kevin Bacon. So here's Kevin Bacon and his older brother Michael. So Michael is 9 years older than Kevin, and in between the two of them is 4 sisters. And Kevin Bacon told a really nice tribute to his mother, who was his preschool teacher, who would take him to school with her each morning, and how there was no rote curriculum. There were just things. And there was no right or wrong to anything that they did. They just created things. And he attributes what she instilled in him in taking, cardboard boxes with a wooden stick and there's your drums and whatever the case may be. It was just a very warm and inspiring story he told about his family and Michael himself, who is now a professor of music, who I know enough about music and arpeggio and all this other stuff to go, whoa, he's way over me, but it was really, really cool. Well, here I am in the airport, and I don't have TSA pre-check, and I'm standing in line, and I look up, and who's standing right next to me but Michael Bacon? And I'm like, I really wanted to do a selfie. I really did, but I thought, I can't out him in the middle of this airport. So I said, hi, Mr. Bacon. He turns around and he looks at me, and I had a school board shirt on, a shirt that had an abbreviation. It was a school board shirt. I said, I'm a school board trustee, and he says, ah. So the next thing I know, we start talking, and he says, where are you from? I said, Michigan. He said, his father got a scholarship to Cranbrook. So I had to do a little bit of Wikipedia after I got home to find out what was going on, but his father was a famous architect, and he got a scholarship to go to Cranbrook. So it was really very inspiring, their story of how they lived in this very small house, and their parents were, how committed they were to their education, and how the foundation of their education inspired who they are today. So that was my claim to fame there, to be in line next to Michael Bacon and TSA. So.
Good story.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. That was a great report. Anything to add, Mrs. Treiber?
Very little. You did a great job.
Thanks.
I will just say that, to add on to what Mrs. McGinnis said, we both agreed that there's great value in going to national, and I would like to just remind our public and our board that Michigan is one of 2 states that are in both CASBA and NSBA. Is that correct? So I think next year when we're looking at the conferences, it would behoove us to look at both nationals and CASBA and NSBA and decide which one is a better fit. But Mrs. McGinnis and I, like she said, split up for all the clinic sessions and had a really hard time choosing. But we decided to kind of focus in on what we as a board have been talking about lately. She focused on a lot of student representation. I focused a lot on community engagement and school safety. So we were able to do that, and we came together at the sessions and things in the hall. So we both found it a great value. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. McGinnis gave me a great detailed summary, and we can put the week in review, and anybody else that wants it can just email me, and I'd be more than happy to do it too.
Yep.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Passion showed right through. So
Yeah, thanks.
That's good.
Any questions or comments for our board members? We have no discussion items tonight. Item 9, this is the second opportunity for citizens to address the board. So is there anybody in the audience that's still here that would like to address the board on any topic? Information items, our next Board of Education meeting, is a week from tonight at 6 p.m. There'll be a closed session regarding the superintendent evaluation and possibly some other items. Monday, April 28th, we have a workshop meeting regarding secondary math at 6 p.m. Item 10.2, we have a secondary art show reception Thursday, April 24th at 5 p.m. here in the administration building. Item 10.3, the Clarkston Area Youth Assistance Youth Recognition Awards are also Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Clarkston High School Performing Arts Center. Item 10.4, we have an elementary art show reception Thursday, April 1st, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the administration building. That concludes our information items. Any other items for the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Motion's made and supported to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.